3, 2, 1. Yo, what it is, YouTube? It's your boy Nitzy coming back with another bullseye of a tutorial hits it on the channel. I wanted to talk about cereal compression. No. Not the type of cereal you put in your breakfast bowl, but cereal compression. That's what I wanted to talk about today. Let's not waste no time. Let's get to listening to a little bit of this music, and let's go over this plugin right here. It came out a minute ago, Autotune vocal compressor. So we're going to go over right now. Let's not waste no time. Let's listen to the vocal and get on top of it. Let's go.
Bitch got her pieces, designer thesis, income increases, we baby Jesus. Supercar keyless, feet off the meters, 100 racks on clothes, they say it's needless. Find a designer, catch me in my lineup, handcraft attire, one single buyer, never one prior. Pressure applier, give me nothing less than best, that's on my soul. That Fendi too cold, watch rose gold, buy and hold out, no it can't be sold.
Okay, so you guys have an understanding of this video that we're gonna be working with this song. So if you guys do like this video, don't forget to like, comment, and also subscribe. And also don't forget to check out the Patreon where we drop those super secret, quiet, exclusive gems on the Patreon. If you guys like this content I do, check out the Patreon. We got even more of it there. Okay, so let's not waste no time. I actually wanted to talk about the Autotune vocal compressor. This compressor came out, I would say maybe a couple months ago, but just the way I am as a person, as soon as it came out, everybody and their mama and their grandma around the corner, around the block was talking about it. So I don't like to, try to, participate in the coordinated plugin attack. So I did not make a video about it at the time. But now is the right time, and I wanted to also talk about serial compression. So serial compression for me is a situation where back in the days when people were using, their vocal chains and everything like that, they were trying to be in a situation where they kind of had the vocal kind of already sounding done on the way in, essentially. And a lot of times things like that come down to level management. The human vocal, we knowing the way it is a very dynamic thing. It's kind of like TNT. It can blow up at any moment. It's like a bomb, essentially. So that's why compression was very important. And, the first stages of making music in the studio, also broadcasting when they was on the radio, hello, good morning, on the radio, something like compression was very important because you don't want to be driving in your car and have like, a certain part of a vocal just scream, like maybe the song is playing on the radio, right? And then the announcer guy starts talking and boom, now it's like a huge change in level. So people did not want that. And that's kind of how compressors and limiters came up. So the very first, compressors that we know is something like the LA-2A. So the LA-2A is one of those compressors, and it was kind of limited in a situation where the attack time of LA-2A is kind of slow. It's like in slow motion. The attack time is kind of how quick does the compressor hug onto the signal, right? So something like an LA-2 is known for having a slow attack and slow restore. It grabs the vocal in slow motion, and then when it grabs the vocal in slow motion, it also holds on to it for a while because it has a slow release time. So that's kind of how I understand it. Another one of the compressors as well that goes in tandem though is the 1176. Now the 1176 has different components, which is the FET components, So LA-2A uses light to do the compression, but the 1176 uses solid state components, the FET pretty much. So it's a lot faster, it's a lot more responsive, and that's good because it works like peanut butter and jelly. When you eat peanut butter, what happens is, it kind of takes you a little time to chew the peanut butter. Think about the LA-2A being like that, and the 1176 is like the jelly. As soon as you put it in your mouth, it's sweet right away. It's just quick, right to the point. You feel a great taste. So another great compressor as well is something like a TubeTech CL1B, which all of these plugins, all of these hardware compressors are modeled inside of this Autotune compressor. So it's good. You don't got to be running around buying all these plugin emulations when you could just get the Autotune. So let's look at how I like to approach something like this. Let's listen to what it sounds like with and without, and then I'll talk about how I like to set something like serial compression up.
Bitch got her pieces, designer thesis, income increases, we baby Jesus. Supercar keyless, feet off the meters, 100 racks on clothes, they say it's needless. Find a designer, catch me in my lineup, handcraft attire, one single buyer, never one prior. Pressure applier, give me nothing less than best, that's on my soul. That Fendi too cold, watch rose gold.
So the beautiful thing about the Autotune compressor is it actually uses AI as well. If you guys are into that, I'm not really into AI. Kind of like I like to try the AI real quick to give me like a ballpark setting or whatever like that. But for the most part, I like to use my actual ears to make decisions, and I think you guys should do that too. When you're out in the street walking, you don't just close your eyes and say, oh, well, I'll see where the world takes me. You gotta listen to the music, let it talk to you, and it'll tell you what settings to dial in. But let's understand the input type. Also, you can find this in like auto tune. It's kind of like the sidechain detection. I know low mail kind of like has a way of like kind of like just looking at specifically like the bottom end. It kind of like is just rolls off a little bit at the bottom, but it's still looking at the bottom. But then alto tenor, I believe it has like a treble boost or something like that, so it's more orientated on the high frequencies, and that's pretty dope when it comes to auto tune, but as well as this compressor. So this one right here is the 1176. And with the 1176, we got to understand when you have an attack time of 0, essentially it's backwards. So the attack time of 7 is the quickest one. It snatches, greedy. It comes in there, boom, it's like a robber. Boom, it grabs the vocal instantly. But then the attack time of 0, or the other hand side, right, is very slow. But just the nature of 1176 is pretty quick. Same thing goes with the release time. So what I like to usually do when I have a vocal that was not tracked with compression, I will use an optical compressor in the very beginning, because the optical compressor has a slower attack time. This is how I'm starting up my bowl of cereal, my bowl of cereal compression. I like to use a slower compressor as my very, 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 very first compressor, because it will let the transients come through. It will let the that's what we kind of want with rap music. That's what we kind of want: impact, articulation. So I like to use optical compressors in the beginning for a rap vocal. For a singing vocal, maybe sometimes I'll use an 1176, but most of the time they can get a little too grabby. If the person is rapping really quick and spitting just like this, it can, the 1176 can start to pump, and it has a fast release time as well. Very responsive compressor that can really start to make it pump with artifacts. So I'm gonna turn off the FET real quick, and let's look at how I set up the optical. So on this Autotune plugin, the Opto A is a LA-2A, right? And we know LA-2A is pretty foolproof. You got peak reduction and the gain, but you also have a little bit of this tube warmth as well. So you can use it just like a straight up saturator, And I'll show you guys how I like to use stuff like that too. But look, CL1B. This is what I like to do. With the CL1B, I usually like to go on a lower ratio, and a lower ratio, what it will do is it will react to more of the overall body of the vocal. A higher ratio will react more to the top, the peak energy, the words, the parts that have more energy. So let's actually zoom in on the vocal. So if you use a higher ratio, what's gonna happen is the compressor is gonna react to more of kind of like the peak energy, pretty much, like the sharper parts, the parts that stick out a little bit more. But with a lower ratio, it will react to the overall, thing. So I think that's important to know too, because I feel like people try to explain like, oh, for every 2 dB of compression over the threshold, it could do like stupid ass motherfucker these people just be confusing me. But I'm gonna tell you what you need to know. So that's the ratio. Threshold is where is the compressor starting in the finish line, like pretty much essentially like when is the compression starting at, you know what I mean? So with a lower ratio, you will be able to drop your threshold even more, which means I'm going all the way, I'm taking my hands, I'm sticking it all the way into the dirt. With a higher ratio, I can only put my hand on the root, which is where the top of the dirt is at. So let's listen to what it sounds like with and without. And of course, we know the attack, like how I said, how quick does it grab it? So I'm using the medium attack as well as the quickest release as well. So let's look.
Black card in my hand. This white dude run it, do ran it, ran. I can't pronounce the shit worth a damn. This drip hand craft Italian. Your mouth just shopping in Milan. Bitch got her pieces, designer thesis. Income increases, sweet baby Jesus. Supercar keyless, seat off the meters. 100 racks on clothes, they say it's needless. Find a designer, catch me in my lineup. Handcraft attire, one single buyer, never one prior. Pressure applier, give me.
With that first layer of cereal compression, as I'm making my bowl of cereal, first thing I like to do, I like to pull out the bowl. the vocal is pretty much gonna be the bowl. Okay, so what am I gonna put in the bowl? What compressors am I gonna use on the vocal? I like to take the bowl and then I like to dump in the serial, which is the optical compressor, pretty much, right? And you only see something very like 2 to 3 dB, nothing crazy. I don't want it to work stupid. If I'm on UAD console, right? If I'm on UAD console and I'm working on UAD console, I usually only like to hit the compressor like 1 dB on a LA-2A. I see some of my subscribers, they hit me up and they're like, I'm trying to do the serial compression like the YouTuber told me. I'm not trying to do it, Nick. I put the LA-2A in front of 1176. It don't work the same way with plugins because the like real hardware is more forgiving than plugins. Like you would have to like literally have it perfectly on the UAD console to make it even sound good. So don't even try to do that. Maybe you want to just use optical compressor on like the LA-2A on the console and just do like 1 dB, just 1 dB, just so you have something that's kind of really evening things out pretty much, you know, like a eraser. You know, when you have a big block eraser, as you slowly start to rub up against it, as the vocal's rubbing up against the compressor, is going to start to wear it down and get it really even, you feel me? So after that, the way the human vocal works, the way an optical compressor works is, there's gonna be some times when that optical compressor is too slow. It's gonna be a little too slow to hug the vocal, you know, like Tetris. You know, sometimes the blocks are coming down so quick that you don't even get a chance to, you know, adjust. Sometimes the vocal, maybe a combination of words, is coming in a little too quick. And it's not allowing the CL1B to catch everything, because that's just how optical compressor is. It's a little slow. That's why you would use something in the bowl of cereal, like a little bit of milk, right? Which is the 1176. With that 1176, what it's giving us, it's just a situation where it's catching some of the overshoots. You know what I mean? There might be certain parts of words, like certain words that have multiple syllables. So it's a situation where certain words have multiple syllables, and those words might have a little bit more air than the other words. You feel me? So a little bit more energy, you know, like energy. Oh shit. Could have put it, you feel me? Like there's certain words that are just gonna have a little bit more energy on the back end than on the front end. You feel me? CL1B taking care of the front end. That's the first security guard. But then there's another security guard behind that security guard, just in case if one of them bad ass jits slip through the cracks. And that's what the 1176 is. So I like to use a slow attack when it comes to my serial compression. This is my first layer of compression, just a slow attack again. You know, I don't want to grab, I don't want to take no punch out of my vocal. I don't want to take no punch out of my vocal. I just want something that's going to still let the transients, you know, still come through. Slowest attack, quickest release, just let go of it. Just kind of be like a situation where now I got my bowl, I got my cereal, and I got my milk. Okay, so now it's time to really sweeten up the vocal at that point. After that, once I got the serial compression going, once I got my bowl of cereal going, I'm ready to take the day on. You feel me? So let's look at that with and without.
Pieces, designer thesis, income increases, sweet baby Jesus, supercar keyless, feet off the meters, 100 racks on clothes, they say it's needless. Find a designer, catch me in my lineup, handcraft attire, one single buyer, never one prior, pressure applier, give me nothing less than best, that's all my soul. That Fendi too cold, watch rose gold, buy and hold out, no it can't be sold. Fly across the world just to get it if it's worth it. Designer said he aimed to get it damn near luxury purchase. Yeah, cause he earned it, pay for the service, crafted with purpose. Yeah, Pupusky, an excellent art. Cruising my Tesla through Northern Lombardy. Shopping in Milan, grande. Spinning big racks because I can.
And as you can clearly see right there, the 1176 is not working all the time. It's only working here and there. You know, it's kind of like a sniper in the background. So it's not really working all the time. It's not really on the front lines doing most of the work. It's just a sniper that's posted off in the cut, ready to pop one of them words if they come too close. So last thing I like to just say is I still use the CL1B, but I use it as a saturator. And this is what I do a lot. Sometimes people only use the LA-2A or 1176 to just let it run through. So compression is not necessarily about just taming peaks. It's not about taming peaks. Sometimes with a compressor, you just want it for the tone. You just want it for how it literally sounds. It's the sound of that tube. And that's the beautiful thing about this Autotune compressor, is it lets me pick whether or not if I want the sound of that tube. It lets me pick whether or not if I want the sound of those FET transformers. So that's another great thing that makes this a little bit better than, you know, maybe the other plugins, because you get to a little bit more control. Do I want it clean? Do I want it dirty? Do I want it control? I don't want the control. You feel me? So let's just bypass the CL1B in and out and just hear how it still just gives me a little bit of that mainstream late at night brightness.
Italian, your mouth just shopping in Milan. Bitch got her pieces, designer thesis, income increases, sweet baby Jesus. Supercar keyless, feet off the meters. 100 racks on clothes, they say it's needless. Find a designer, catch me in my liner. Handcraft attire, one single buyer, never one prior. Pressure applier, give me nothing less than best. That's on my soul. That 52 cold, watch rose gold. Buy and hold out, no it can't be sold.
So that's another great way to use your compressor. Maybe you don't even gotta use the EQ. You don't even gotta crank up the top. Maybe you can just pull out a compressor that you know has components that make it sound bright, let it run through, and bam, there you go. So that's another gem for you guys today. So I just want to say thanks a lot for being a great part of my YouTube family. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, check out the Patreon for more exclusive gems. Appreciate y'all now, YouTube gang. Peace.